Well, hello everyone, and Taxi88 here, and welcome to another review. And now we're taking a look at the ZX Spectrum port of Donkey Kong, really published by Ocean Software in 1986. And although there had been a couple of unofficial ports of Donkey Kong earlier in the Spectrum's lifespan, in 1986, Nintendo finally gave their approval for an official port. And I'm not going to go into great detail about what Donkey Kong is, because I don't think there are that many gamers on the planet who'd be watching this video who didn't know about the game, or indeed the character, especially as the likes of Donkey Kong Country over a decade later would have repopularised interest in the character, and he's appeared in several games since then. So we'll just get on with it. Yeah, that's just about recognisable as the tune that plays as Kong climbs up the ladder in the original arcade version. There, as is that. Obviously, it's the Spectrum beeper, so there are going to be some limitations on. Oh God! Look how slow he climbs up ladders. I mean, it looks like Jumpman, the character who would later become Mario. But God, that panicked me. You can never tell which barrels are gonna suddenly decide to go down. Oh damn it! I just had a moment and jumped too early. Shame there's no sound when he walks like there was in the original arcade version. I always get panic every time the barrel passes over my head, because you just never know whether it's going to just come down and get you, or just continue on its way on the girder. Oh God. Oh God. And whatever you do, do not press jump and left or jump and right at the same time, because the likelihood is that will happen. You'll just jump straight up in the air, which is quite annoying. Oh God, he climbs up ladders so slowly. I'm sure that's going to lead to my death. Oh goodness, no! If only that barrel up there hadn't come down that ladder. Game over. The default keyboard settings are QZ, IP, and space for up, down, left, right, and fire. So it's not one of those where where up and jump are the same thing, which the likelihood is that would be the case if you were using joystick. So this is like Ghosts and Goblins. This is probably another one where it's definitely preferable to use keyboard to control rather than joystick. Oh, for God's sake! See what I mean? You just can never tell which barrels are going to suddenly come down a ladder. I mean, even those which you think are going to do it ultimately don't, and even the ones that you think aren't going to do it ultimately do. You just really can't tell. Come on, can't get up the ladder faster. Yay! And of course, Kong's having none of that to take him to the next stage. Oh. Now I've seen in preparation for this, I looked at footage of the original arcade. Oh God! Oh damn it! And oh, I see there are arrows on the sides of the. Oh God! There are arrows on the sides of that floor which show which way the conveyor belt's going. Just going to say, it didn't look like a conveyor. Oh God! What? He fell right through that. Yeah, as I was saying, I look in preparation for this review. I looked at footage of the original arcade version, and what worries me is that I'm worried that there might be levels missing from this version because um, the second stage didn't look anything like that in the original arcade version, and had this sort of springboard-like thing that. Anyone who's familiar with the game will know exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, get up the ladder faster! See, I knew that would kill me at some point during this review. It was simply asking to happen. And that's another thing I ascertained from watching footage of the original arcade version, just to give myself a refresher. He does not take that long to climb up ladders in that version. Oh God, hurry your arse up! I mean, Jumpman looks quite a bit like Jumpman if you ignore the fact that they had to compromise on his usual colour scheme for obvious reasons. A little bit of colour clash as he ascends the slopes of the girders, but that was only to be expected with what's. Oh God! Oh, I couldn't have got around that. There was no. I don't think I could have survived that no matter what I did. I mean, it's good that they've actually got this intro bit in as well. I mean, they could have just easily ignored it completely, but they have at least made it as faithful to the original arcade version as is realistically possible under the circumstances. I think that that beeper tune could have done with being a little bit more melodious than that, though, but it could have been a lot worse. Oh God! I was trying to keep an eye on everything at once. Oh dear. There is a lot of luck involved in this. God. Oh, hurry up. Ooh, blooming hell. No. No. I was trying to turn around and jump, but he kept just jumping straight up in the air because that problem I mentioned earlier where you can't press, say, right and jump at exactly the same time because otherwise you just jump straight up in the air. That really is a big problem. Oh, God. I was so worried that was going to actually come up the... Oh, see, he takes too long to climb up ladders. As you can see, Kong himself is actually animated. He doesn't just stand there like he does in some of the other more basic unofficial versions, which is also a good thing. But the biggest thing that's preying on my mind is why they'd released this in 1986. The game was already half a decade old by that point, and worse still, it was released full price. Oh, for God's sake! Again, a problem because of him climbing up ladders so slowly. I mean, when Jumpman's viewed side on, it does look quite a lot like he's supposed to, which is... Oh, You have to be really accurate with your jumps in this. But then you did in the original arcade version as well, so I guess on that basis, it's faithful to its original source material. Come on. Oh, hurry up. Oh. Okay, I think I'm going to wind up the review there. So that was the official Nintendo approved Ocean Software published port of Donkey Kong. Graphics, well, they're fairly basic, but then the original game was fairly basic in the first place. So they pretty much look as good as they're ever going to look. I mean, particularly with the side-on, and if you ignore the fact that they had to sacrifice his usual color scheme, Jumpman, who would later become known as Mario, about 4 years later, would. Well, I think it was 4 years later. There may have been some handheld games in which he took on the Mario name earlier than that, but I'm not absolutely sure. But either way, Jumpman is the character that later became Mario, and yeah, he pretty much looks okay in that. You can still just about make out the fact that he's got a moustache, just like he does in the original version, and to get that level of detail in with a monochrome sprite is. It just goes to show they put a little bit of effort into the design of the sprite. And he's generally his animations are acceptable, and everything seems to move smoothly, which is good. It's not too slow. Sound, well, it's minimal, but we are talking about a 48K Spectrum here. The beeper tune as Kong ascends the ladder in that intro, it does sound a little bit discordant, unfortunately. I have heard better beeper tune than that. But other than that, there's not really much to say about the sound. I mean, what's there does its job, and I would have preferred it if there could have been a sound for. I just noticed in the scrolling at the bottom screen there actually says Mario. I mean, by that point he was known as Mario, so that's probably why they renamed that. But he was just called Jumpman when Donkey Kong first hit arcades in 1981. But yeah, so I went a little bit off track there. But so yeah, I can't really say much more about the sound. I would have preferred it if there could have been a sound when Jumpman / Mario is actually walking, just like there was in the original arcade version. But there could have been worse things missing than that. Gameplay. Well, as I said, I'm a bit worried that second level didn't look the same as the second level of what I remember seeing in the footage of the second level of the arcade version, which makes me concerned that like a few other ports I read about, that there might be some missing levels. But because I couldn't get past that second stage, I don't know that for certain, at least not at the time of recording this video. Other problems I have is that you can't, as I said, you can't press up and left or jump and left or jump and right and expect to jump in that direction, because he'll just jump straight up every time if you do that, and that is a big problem. It would have been preferable if they could have made it so he could have jumped in the way I just described, and made him less prone to unexpectedly jumping straight up in the air and landing straight on what he was trying to jump over. That is a huge problem. Also, a bit of a big problem is the fact that it takes Mario so long to climb up a ladder. Even a short ladder can take him quite a bit of time. I mean, in the arcade version, he climbs up and down at roughly the same speed as he walks. So him noticeably about pretty much half the speed climbing up ladders as he moves left and right can lead to some unnecessary deaths and make the game more annoying to play than it really needed to be. But the biggest problem with with this particular release is a little bit of a case of too little, too late. As I said, there'd already been a couple of unofficial ports of Donkey Kong for the Spectrum in the years leading up to this, and this may well be finally an approved port, but the original arcade game came out in 1981, and this didn't come out until 1986. By this point, games, especially on full price, were starting to push the boundaries of what the Spectrum could do, and were becoming more entertaining and interesting as a result. And from what I can make out, Ocean was selling this for £7.95, which was the going rate for a full price game for the Spectrum at the time, for the most part, and that's just too much to pay for a port of a game that even at that point was half a decade old, and it was having to compete with other things. I mean, in 1986 we had Ocean's brilliant 3D isometric game, The Great Escape, which would have been around roughly the same price, and that would have been visually more arresting just by the screenshots than what you could see than what you experience in this. And of course was current, whereas this we're talking about a game that was 5 years old before this particular port even came out. So asking £7.95 for a port of a game that's 5 years old, it was simply too much to ask, and that is unfortunately going to impact on my final score. I'm going to give this port of Donkey Kong 5 out of 10. It's not a terrible port, but it does have some problems, and the fact that they were asking so much money which would have been a lot for a kid back in 1986, for a port of a game that was half a decade old before it came out. It was just a bit too much to ask of people. So anyway, hope you enjoyed watching this review. Catch you on another video soon. TechC88 out.